Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another wonderful edition of the Wilds War Cry. I am Stephen Wilds. It was, we have a lot to cover, but sadly it was a week of mediocrity. That's the best way I can put it. It's kind of being polite too. No, I don't. There was some good stuff. It's really sad when the most memorable part of my week in wrestling was SmackDown. SmackDown used to be one of the best shows, one of the best things WWE had going for it, but a lot of times now it's just a giant recap and hey, we already had that match on Raw, why don't we do it on SmackDown? Or hey, we'll test this match out on SmackDown, and if it works, we'll put it on the next Raw. Anyway, I digress. Let's start with TNA. Impact Wrestling was just kind of blah. I made some notes about the knockout match because I actually kind of enjoyed it. But as a whole, and I kind of want to run through some of this to get to some other points, it just really wasn't that good. TNA is really killing the vignettes right now, which, I think you can definitely overdo that. So, some of them paid off at the Sacrifice pay-per-view, and we still have the Nux things going on, and we'll see where all that goes. A little bit of a sad note, and if you've been reading my articles or listening to me at all, you know I was probably going to bring it up. Christopher Daniels has left the building, and looks like Kazarian is probably joining him, if not already there. Those were two of my favorite wrestlers in TNA, and I don't know what's in the future for them. They're both. I don't see them going to WWE, so probably another run in ROH or All Japan or something. Who knows? We'll see. But I hope they both find something they're looking for. So TNA has done something which a lot of people have had different opinions on. I'm actually for it. I think it makes more sense. Some of their pay-per-views are actually just free on television, and then they have a few that are in the old pay-per-view model. And this past Sunday, they had TNA Sacrifice. I'm going to go over some of the matches real quick. The Wolves versus the Bromans was the opening match. It really, for an opening match, did exactly what a good opening match should. It set the tone and had a wonderful pace. It made me really think that this was going to be a good pay-per-view. There were some really cool spots in it. I'm afraid I haven't talked about the Wolves enough. They deserve to be touted about. The double stomp finish at the end was just wonderful. I thought it was an all-around good match. I've said in the past the Bromans have kind of improved. I'm big on DJ Zema Ion. He can be really good in the ring. And he's not bad on the mic either. It was all around. It was a good setup. There was a build up to it. It felt like there was something. And if you didn't see it, the Wolves are now your TNA Tag Team Champions. Which, hey, it's awesome. I hope they do something good with that. I hope there's another good feud coming out of that. They can continue the feud with the Bromans, or they could do something else. There's not really a ton of tag teams right now, but we'll see what happens. Anyway, the second match was Anderson versus Shaw. I like this, but when you realize how long this has been going on, I don't know. I'm really wondering what they're going to do with Shaw's character after this feud is over, and that may be part of the reason why. Does he switch obsessions? Does he still stay obsessed with Christy, but just somebody else is kicking his ass now? Like I really don't. They're going to have to evolve that character somewhat. Or what's most likely going to happen is they're going to align him with someone. But that's a character with not a long lifespan built in. So they're going to have to get really creative with him. It really was a slow match in the beginning, but it was because they were doing a lot of story stuff. And that's fine. There were a couple of good spots. My favorite one, of course, is where they were in the back. And Anderson had Shaw in the headlock and was trying to get Jeremy Borash to interview him. It was really funny. I actually enjoyed Christy Hemi's involvement. Sometimes when you have that side character like that, their involvement can be it can detract from the match, but this really didn't. It actually felt like it worked, but it's probably because she's been involved from the story since the get-go. So, and I'm not just saying that because she's, easy on the eyes. That's definitely true, but she, she's a former wrestler. She knew what she was doing. She added a lot to it. The knee to the groin at the end was good. That was a pretty decent match that Anderson won, and it felt like a cool payoff. But it had a really couple of odd transitions at the end of that match. And in any match where the wrestlers leave the arena, kind of you have the danger of taking the audience, especially, there's not much you can do for the in-house audience, but even the television audience, taking them out of the moment and taking them out of the match entirely, and almost like you have to kind of reset the pay-per-view and reset the mood. The next match kind of did do that to some degree. It was a very by-the-book match, EC3 and Rockstar Spud versus Kurt Angle, and that guy that I don't like to talk about so much, but it was Willow. All right, it was a slow opening again, but it fit both characters. It was trying to. They had built a lot of heat. They had put a lot of time into this, and they were trying to kind of, take their time with that. That's fine. It was an established feud between both people. The crowd, I couldn't help but notice, but towards the beginning, there was one point the crowd was actually, chanting boring. And I like Rockstar Spud. I think he is very talented. And I noticed at one point the crowd was actually seen behind him chanting his name and really cheering when he actually got a move in. And he's good. I don't know. Willow just makes me cringe. Never thought I'd hear a wrestling crowd chanting Mary Poppins. It wasn't a bad match. It was good. It just Kurt Angle and Willow won, and there's just really not much more to say to that. I'm just going to go on. Okay, so Sonata versus Tigre Uno. I like it. It was for the X Division title. I've talked about before how they have kind of the international flavor. We see a little bit of a different moveset and a little bit of a different style than we're used to. Not too much if you've watched TNA for a long time, but something, feels kind of nice. Feels just that little bit of different that kind of gets you more into it. There were some really good technical spots in that match. Had a mix of like high flying and, they kind of did a little bit of submission stuff in there, but it felt like they were really running around the spectrum to try to make the match, seem full and fleshed out, and they did a good job of that. I really wasn't surprised that Sonata kept the belt. It just seemed like they were building him up for that. I'd really like to see a long, decent run with him as the champ, and even if it's not as the champ, just a decent run with him in TNA. He's a good wrestler. I like this kind of background pressure that the Great Muta is, kind of put on him and everything, and I don't know, it works. I'm very much okay with this right now. The next match was Gunner and Storm. This was, I don't know. Okay, let's start from the beginning. There's a couple things in this match that bug me. One, why didn't Storm use the original Johnny Cash version of his theme song? Maybe it's cheaper to get that really weird. I don't know. If you're going to use that song, get the original. Two, something that really bothers me about I Quit matches is it's really hard to do an I Quit match and it be entertaining. In the past few years, if you look at WWE and TNA's I Quit matches, a lot of them struggled. It's hard to keep the fans into it. And this one's a great example that you have to beat the crap out of each other, and really you want to sell the hell out of this I Quit gimmick, but it really makes certain people look like Superman, and it just, I don't know, it's a tough sell on that. This one was kind of brutal. It had a lot of color in it, especially towards the end. The crowd was chanting more blood at one point, I noticed. And then the thing is, it was a very entertaining match, and I liked it, and I'm actually kind of glad they let Gunner win. I thought it was actually time to give Storm another victory in this feud, but I don't know. It worked out. It was very drawn out. It was a little bit drawn out, and at one point I don't know. I felt like they could have done more. Not in this. It's not like they didn't beat the crap out of each other well enough. I felt like you're almost never going to hear me say this. I felt like what this match really probably could have used to break up some of the monotony was a run-in or something. I don't know, something. Anyway, the knockouts match was Madison Rayne, who was the champion, versus Angelina Love. I'm a fan of Angelina Love and Velvet Skies. I love the beautiful people. I also like Madison Rayne. She seems like a hard worker, and although I won't say that these were two of the best knockouts in TNA, they definitely are good wrestlers. And there were a couple times I was really, and just found myself really enjoying the match. So it was a lot of fun stuff in it. Like I said, they're both decent competitors. Velvet really kind of deserves a strong nod just for her work on the apron. A lot of distraction stuff that she did. I mean, that's how Angelina won the title, but she did it all very well. You can tell that she knew what she was doing, and there was a lot of preparation put into that. I was a little surprised they didn't involve Brittany, and maybe because that was too obvious, they decided not to do it. And notice the announcers I think they even said something about it during the match. But so every match I've talked about so far has been at least decent. And I really thought that this pay-per-view was just going to, come out on top. But then we got the Bully Ray versus Bobby Roode. And I don't know. There's just not a lot to say about this match. And again, it wasn't a bad match. I take notes on a lot of these matches, and I actually have a note that says this section needs more notes. The only real note I have, other than talking about we haven't really seen a good a reversal contest, when people are going back and forth reversing on each other, is a great idea during a tables match. It builds up tension, and they did that very well. But the only other note I have is how kind of meh I was on Dixie's involvement in the match. Other than her looking like she was ready to go party with the Duck Dynasty people, it's cool that she did that. But I don't know, her character doesn't seem like the hands-on type like that. She seems like the person who hires people to do that. In fact, that's what they've built up with her character from day one. And I don't know if she actually... I don't know. I thought that was just... In all honesty, I think at the last minute they were like, how do we change up this match? How do we do something more with this? Because both of these guys are good wrestlers. Both of them are entertaining to watch usually. They're very similar in style. And it just... I don't know. I honestly started... It's when I watch wrestling, it's rare that I just lose interest. And that was a match I really thought I was just... I was like, I could go be doing anything else. The final match of the night was Eric Young versus Magnus. It was a great opening package for Eric Young. I know WWE usually is the one that blows everybody away with their video packages, but I want to give the TNA staff some credit on that one. Young is a really fun wrestler to watch. I think he has a really good level of comedy, and what I mean by that is the stuff that he was doing at the beginning of the match that was funny felt like it fit his character, especially after that video package. And I've been watching Eric Young for a while, so I know that he's done stupid, he's done heel, he's done a lot of stuff. And a lot of times he's been the guy that would go under, so he's been involved in a lot of squash matches, and he's been involved in a lot of matches that were just sheer comedy, that whole run with Joseph Park. But the truth of the matter is that he was displaying some really good work and some effort. I don't know. this is my problem with that match. It was a really good match again, and it actually, the last two matches I mentioned just actually felt like two of the kind of weaker matches, and they weren't weak matches. They just didn't have anything exciting. This pay-per-view was on the end of the spectrum where it's still in the mediocrity, but it's at the high end. It's like it's just about to be not mediocre. There's not a lot I have to complain about it, which makes me think I should have thought more highly of it. But there's not a lot to give it. And one thing I really think that TNA should be looking at right now is, okay, so we're at good, and we need to get to great. And the way to do that is not to copy WWE or not to even look at WWE. Well, actually, I take that back. If I were TNA, I'd be trying to ask myself, what is anything we can do to separate ourselves from WWE? And I'm not talking about just simple stuff like, okay, I'm not saying they should go back to the six-sided ring. That is a choice that I can't really talk about because that's more of the wrestlers. But, there was a point where there were several things that separated TNA and WWE. They had the six-sided ring. They focused a lot more on the X Division at one point, which were, high flyers and, guys that weren't great on the mic a lot of times, but had the skill. And I think that's what is going to help TNA, if they ever want to go back to regrowing their audience, actually do it. So, I don't know. That's my suggestion. If you guys have a suggestion or if you think I'm wrong, let me know. All right, on to SmackDown. So, the opening debate was interesting, but it was really longer than it needed to be. And that's okay because it went into Swagger versus Cesaro, which was actually a really good match. I originally had thought you need to go ahead and end this feud between Swagger and Cesaro and give Cesaro something else to do. And even though I like Jack Swagger, I just didn't think the feud was going anywhere. But that was a really good match. And if we get another match like that out of this feud, I'm okay with them continuing it a little bit. I know they did on Raw, and I'll get into that in a moment. The Shield dominated SmackDown in so many ways. Not just their physical dominance over taking out everybody, and that was beautiful. It was very reminiscent of some old school, Stone Cold and other moments in there. Their segment with Brad Maddox was great. The segment with Fandango was it was amazing. I didn't expect that. I didn't expect them to go that route, and like I said, they had some really good lines. I love the part with Heath Slater where he's trying to basically beg them not to do this right now, and that's what I mean by the Shield and the people that they were involved with and all that. That was SmackDown. That was it was amazing. That last match was really good. It was sheer decimation for the Shield. I love that Barrett and Del Rio backed out because I don't know as much for Del Rio. He was just more of a villain. But for Barrett, I'm sure, in character, they reminded us just before the match that he had a match against Rob Van Dam on Monday for something a little bit more important to him. So it made so much sense, and it really fit the character and did the character justice when he just backed out with Del Rio. To focus on the tournament. All in all, SmackDown was probably the best thing I watched this week. And I know it still had the usual recap stuff, and it still had a couple of things I didn't really understand when I was there, or just felt like filler, but it was probably the best thing. So that brings us to Raw, which was, okay, let's just be honest. Raw was a disappointment. I've seen some people that said it was just straight up crap. And I don't know. Maybe I'm not. I would almost think to really judge this one, if I was having to give this one a number score or something, I'd have to rewatch it because, it's so weird. It starts off with that wonderful opening segment that it did a lot. There was no real ending to it, which was kind of I don't know. It was obviously they were trying to make the impact of that last throughout the episode. Cena quoting The Dark Knight was kind of fun. I know a lot of people are asking about why they keep, why do they keep hinting at his heel turn? Well, that's because wrestling fans keep talking about it. Every time they hint it's at a Cena heel turn, even though most fans I know they'll never do it, but let's talk about this. So that's why they keep hinting at it. And maybe they eventually will do it. I don't know. Maybe when pigs fly and, people in hell stop wanting ice water, they'll decide, okay, well, we've, gotten as much money out of this as we can. Hopefully they'll do it before he gets too much older, but I don't know. Honestly, probably never happen. Not in the way that we're thinking. I don't know what was up with that Sheamus and Titus O'Neil match. Can anybody actually, I paused the show and tried to think, what was that for? Are we building Sheamus? Or do we just need to fill some time? I mean, I'm really glad both of those guys got a match. I like both of them. I don't know. The Hugh Jackman segment, man, I'm a giant X-Men fan, and I was just sitting there going, it was back to what I was saying earlier. I could be doing anything else. I really almost stopped and played Castlevania. But anyway, that felt like a waste of time. Heyman's opening, his little segment was great. The knock-knock joke. So stupid, but his delivery. Oh, man. I don't know, like I said, they had the more swagger. There was a lot of segments that felt really like they were kind of just a giant. I'm going to say it. There's a lot coming up that's just a giant clusterfuck. Some people really seemed off on their promos tonight. Like Daniel Bryan, I'm going to attribute that to still probably getting over his father's death. There's a lot going on. Cena missed a couple of steps, but not as noticeable. There was one other, but I can't recall right now, actually. RVD versus Wade Barrett was kind of fun, but again, it's the first part of what I was talking about. Was just felt like, I don't know, it felt like there was too much there. Felt like it was a giant cluster with everyone coming in, and it was entertaining, but at the end, I think they did so well in the rest of this tournament. You probably didn't need all that to send it home. I'm looking forward to Big E versus Wade Barrett. I originally thought that Big E was going to win this tournament. Now I'm not as sure. I'm cool with either outcome, actually, to be honest. I like Big E. I like Wade Barrett. The last segment was also just really messy. And I'm going to be honest. I watched this segment twice because it was just so odd to me. That really felt like a waste of Ric Flair. Like, that's cool that he didn't come out and just side with Evolution, I guess, and not do anything. But there had to be something else they could have thought. Maybe they could only get him for one night. And so they were working under duress as far as using him. I don't know. It wasn't good. The truth is that this episode, thinking back on it, it probably looked really good on paper. It would have to me. And I'm not going to say this is just failed execution because that's not all this is. I think it just wasn't enough. You're building up to Extreme Rules. And one of my things is that if you have kind of a shitty build-up episode to Survivor Series, I'm still going to watch Survivor Series. It's one of the big four. It's one of the ones I'm not going to miss. If you have a shitty build-up episode to the Royal Rumble, that sucks, but I'm still going to watch the Royal Rumble. For pay-per-views like Extreme Rules, I need you to make me want to watch this. That's a pay-per-view that comes Sunday night, if someone says, hey, would you rather go get a burger than sit at home and watch Extreme Rules, I'm going to be like, yeah, that sounds great. Now, I guess now with the WWE Network, you can just come home and watch it afterwards. But, there was a time where I wouldn't want to miss, and there's still certain pay-per-views I don't want to miss it. But I don't know. Anyway, I think they kind of failed on this one. The build-up was not good. Also, like, some of the little stuff that they mentioned just really turned me off on Extreme Rules. And this is going to sound horrible, but why is the pre-show match Hornswoggle versus El Torito? And what really killed it for me is as soon as they called it a WeLC match, I was done. I was like, well, I usually watch the pre-show, but I'll probably skip it this time. I'll just read who the winner is and not comment on it. Anyway, overall, this week has been mediocrity central. I'm hoping Extreme Rules is good. I'm hoping Raw is better. I think Daniel Bryan will be back in this game. I think we need to go ahead and get this thing between him and Kane over with, not because I have anything against Kane. I love Kane. But this just feels very odd. I think this was a good transitional opponent for him. And then now you need to give him a good opponent. And the problem is there's no one, in my opinion, that they have up there in the upper mid card right now that I think would really do it. There are a lot of guys on the roster I would love to see go against Daniel Bryan, but they're not the people that's going to pull that great match out of him. I don't know. We're going to see what happens. I've got a few predictions, but I'm not going to bother going through those right now because I know this video is already probably a bit long. And to be honest, I do that enough times. If you guys want, you can leave me your predictions in the comments section. My question of the week, and this is something I want to try to start doing, is occasionally giving you guys a question because I have my opinions, but I kind of want to know your opinions. Or I want to laugh at them. That's not true. Listen, I'm really bad about taking other people's opinions. But I do want to know. So the question of the week is, on Impact, there was a pretty decent segment between Bobby Lashley and Kenny King. And I like both of those guys, and I thought it was kind of neat. It was a fun segment. I didn't mention it up there because I knew I was going to talk about down here. But Lashley, in my opinion, has a lot of talent. If you notice, they don't let him speak on the mic much because he's not great on the mic. He's got a lot of talent. He's a physical specimen. He's just, I don't know. Sometimes I don't think the whole package came together for him. Like, he's good, but he's not everything he needs to be. And I know the circumstances behind him leaving WWE, and a lot of people still say if he'd stayed there, he could have been a lot bigger. I kind of agree with that. It's hard not to agree with that because although I know he was having some problems in the back, I think had that stuff worked out and he'd stuck around, you might have seen him have a really cool resurgence. So my question of the week is I want to know your thoughts on Bobby Lashley, if he can make it, if he should just fade away, whatever. Anything you want to say about Bobby Lashley, you let me know. But that's it. I know that was a lot, and maybe next week we'll have something that I can be a little bit more excited about. But till then, my name is Stephen Wilds, and this has been The War Cry.